Hi everyone, Clue Small Designs here, and this is part 1 of the Hobby Boss 1/32 scale B-24D Liberator build. So, I've seen a few of these on YouTube, mostly like inbox reviews and such of the J, and I think maybe 1 or 2 videos of the D, but nothing of the build. I think Frankie's doing one, but really nobody else. I'm not too sure why. I don't know if this is more of a collectible model or what. So I thought, you know what, I'll build mine. I've sat on it long enough. I've been waiting for mostly aftermarket stuff to come out, things like that. But that's why I usually don't like to build these right away. I like to have the aftermarket stuff come out, things like that. But not too sure why people aren't building these. It's a beautiful kit. I think it's actually better than the HK B-17 kits. It builds a lot nicer. It's the plastic feels better. The construction is better. Yeah, the only gripes that I have with this one in particular, the D, it says with full interior, but there's definitely parts missing. Not missing out of my kit per se, just missing in general, like especially with the nose. You know, with the D having a nose that big, you'd think you'd have a Norden bomb sight and such. That's just absent altogether. So, you know, a few question marks as to why they would omit that from the kit, but that's okay. I got a lot of HK B-17 kits that I'm going to be, you know, taking parts out of and throwing into this, so stay tuned for that. Now I know the J had issues with the frosted clear parts, which was odd. But with this model kit here, I actually received the clear parts for the J. Now you cannot swap the D for the J, obviously. It's just, it can't be done. But I have clear parts for the J, and they're not frosted, so take that for what it's worth. So anyhow, let's just get into it here and show you what we've done. And so far, it has been a lot of fun doing this. Again, we haven't seen, you know, a J or a D in B-24 format since 1/4/8 scale. So yeah, having this kit, especially from Hobby Boss, it's real nice. So again, let's talk. So like with many models, you start in the cockpit, and right off the bat, obviously we're working with aftermarket kits like we usually do with myself, and I've tried these guys right here. That's the first time I've used these guys as far as aftermarket goes. And would I use them again? I don't know, because I did manage to get it in there. I might have made a mistake, or it might not be a good kit. I really don't know here. I ended up adding my own stuff anyhow, right? So, because that's the instructions. So it's very limited. Now, I usually don't use instructions, you know, as I build in a way, because I've been doing this for so long, I can kind of predict what's going to happen. But this one was kind of a head scratcher for me, especially when it says, you know, Hobby Boss, right? Like they're showing you, okay, that's the Hobby Boss part, but they're not saying you need to use it, right? Especially if you're coming from using Edward all the time, right? Because Edward usually just scrape off, you know, the existing detail and throw it over top. This says nothing. So what it ended up doing is just using their part, you know, obviously, and foregoing the Hobby Boss part for the most part, because I ended up using some of the Hobby Boss parts anyhow. So let's have a look at some of the detailing here. Let's see if I can get some light. Now, what turned me on to their kit is how it's 3D, right? How this part sticks out. Now, if you're not paying attention, because obviously there's moving parts with this one, you're bending the PE part, and you get maybe 1 or 2 bends, and then it's broke. So pay attention to that, right? Because it's telling you to bend parts. So make sure you know how to bend it, or which way you're bending it. So you're bending it out towards, you know, the seats. So anyway, it turned out nice, but I ended up using Edward parts and kit parts. So where I ended up using kit parts, just give me a second here, I'll get my high-tech pointer, is right here and here, right? So that is actually part of the gray parts that I've just pointed at is actually part of the original console. Otherwise, the yokes would have actually just been plugged into the PE part. And it just didn't look right. And if you look at historical photos of the B-24 cockpit itself, they actually had those kind of bulges. So I thought, okay, so I'll glue those on and then I'll stick the yokes in. Now the yokes are obviously kit parts as well, and that looks a little bit more accurate, right? And then for the automatic pilot and such, this here was actually Edward. The one that is detailed on with this set here, it didn't look right. So I thought, okay, I got lots from the B-17 set, so I thought, oh, I'll throw that in there. It looks a little more accurate. And it turned out that it's nicer, right? And because it's, you know, detail on top of detail, it looks a little bit more 3D now. Also, too, with this set is when I glued it on in what looks to be its appropriate spot, there's a huge gap right where the Lucky Strikes are. And obviously I use Lucky Strikes a lot in my builds, as you know, but in this instance, it's actually kind of hiding a potential mistake or flaw, you choose. But between here and the console, that's actually a gap. And had I not put, you know, a photo etch part, that's actually a photo etch part that I cut out myself and then dropped down, that was a huge gap you would have been able to see right down to the cockpit floor. Let's see if I can turn. Now, I hidden it fairly well. Yeah, you can't see it, but I actually, basically what I did is I extended the console from here to there and placed the cigarettes on top just to basically hide it. So now it looks like just part of the console now. I also did some pre-fitting just to make sure that everything was going to fit in the plane just fine, and it does. So, is it a mistake or is it the set? I do not know. I really don't know. In the end, I think it looks fairly decent. Is it accurate? I'm not too sure. I don't know the B-24 all that well, other than I like the looks of it. Because right here, there's more throttles. And then in other pictures, they have this. So the set does not come with more throttles. And I've worked so hard on this cockpit for many days now that I think I'm just done with it at this point, right? So there we go. That is the finished look of that setup anyhow, right? So the colors I used obviously are right here. I used the TS9, which is the British green, for the whole setup right here. That's the closest color match I found for the console and the panel. I just had to flatten down this right here. I found that the British green came painted really shiny, like a gloss. So, and if you're wondering about the throttles, those throttles actually came with the Hobby Boss set. Those are PE. So, and of course, some manufacturers, as they made, you know, parts of the plane and stuff like that, it wasn't all, you know, the interior yellow green. Sometimes it kind of mixed and matched. So now talking about the interior green, now some B-24s, early B-24s, had almost like a yellowish greenish chromate. Now I used PS56, let it dry, and then I went over with this right here. I thinned it out because this has more of a greenish tinge. I thinned it out, and then I went over top And that's why it has like a more of a real interior green look to it. And then once that dried, I went over it with quadruple O wire brush, or wire, this stuff right here. And just went over top of it. It gave like a sheen to it. It does take some paint away, which is exactly what I wanted. So you can tell it has that metal look to it. And whatever paint it took away, sometimes it went right down to the plastic. And that's where I used the aluminum right there for the paint chipping. And especially right here, because that's a high traffic area. And that's where this piece right here comes in. It'll sit higher up when the time comes. Because obviously that's exactly where everyone will always step down into. And more detail will come back into here, right? Because there's like a radio room and stuff right here. I believe that's a radio room. We'll add more detail in as the time comes. That's where we'll add radios and such from like the B-17 kits, things like that, because this one does not come with it. You know, because we're talking back into here, top turret, things like that. I don't know how far we'll go with the detail, right? Because all this is closed up, but you know what? We do it for fun, just to show you. Now, the seats. I used this set right here. It's for B-17, but all you have to do is look at the pictures from history, and you can easily replicate B-24 seats. And then for the cushions, I just used my 502 Optilong paints and came up with the right color of cushions, or the cushion colors, and then just dirtied them up, as you can see. Now, I do believe the B-24 used the same seats, or the B-29 used the same seats as the B-24. So if you want a little history fact there, you go. The seats were fairly easy to construct. Came in like 5 or 6 parts, but that is the end result there. So, long video, but this set right here, like it took 3 or 4 days to actually do if you want to do it right. I guess the longest part is the console, but a lot of work went into just that there. But you're definitely going to be able to see into that. Unlike the B-17 where you just got those little windows, you're going to see into that one. And you're definitely going to be able to see into there. So why, again, they omitted the Norden bomb sight, things like that. But we'll take care of that. So anyway, that's good enough for part 1. So please like, share, and subscribe. And I definitely look forward to your comments on this, guys. So take care.